Cardiff, capital city of Wales and Europe's fastest growing city. The redevelopment of the city centre has created many new wonderful sights that are enjoyed by tourists and local people alike. But just imagine if you couldn't see the wonderful environment around us, like the St David's Dowie Sant development here in the city centre, or the transformation of Cardiff Bay. Imagine also if you couldn't read newspapers or magazines, the very things that keep us in touch with news and events. You see, 75% of what we take in from around us comes through our sight. Our other senses, hearing, touch, taste and smell, are small in comparison. The absence of visual information is something those of us with sight can barely comprehend. Over 350,000 people in the United Kingdom are registered as visually impaired, and each day another 100 people start to lose their sight. It was here in Cardiff 40 years ago, in 1971, that a small group of volunteers decided to establish one of the first charities in the United Kingdom aimed at helping visually impaired people keep more in touch with the local scene. The late Jack Treby was someone rapidly losing his sight in his 60s, and he became more and more aware of this need for an effective way of helping visually impaired people. The answer was found on the west coast of Wales. In Aberystwyth in 1970, volunteers had started the Cardiganshire Talking newspaper using modern high-speed cassette copying equipment. They were able to give local blind people their own taped copy of the local news. Jack Treby's dream developed into the South Wales Talking Magazine Association. It's been produced regularly since then, every month for a magazine and every week for a newspaper, although that's only been going 36 years. Today it's still based here in Cardiff and still an entirely voluntary organisation and independent charity. Over 800 magazines are produced each month and 600 newspapers each week, all distributed on CD, free of charge.
Welcome to the South Wales Talking Magazine.
As well as our regular items, I have a very interesting programme for you this month.
Some items will be recorded in studio.
You can listen online at www.insightradio.co.uk,
whilst other material will be recorded out on location.
I'm at Cardiff Castle and I've brought Norman Hopkins along to talk to Helen Jones about their audio-visual guide. So Helen, how does it work?
Fine, if you go into our interpretation centre and collect an audio guide, then the people there on the desk will actually help you and set it up for you. There's a raised button in the middle of your keypad.
The 1899 discoveries.
Meanwhile, another member of the team is also out recording on location.
I noticed that there's quite a lot of different stops there with various things written on them. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
Yes, well, the stops, you can either work manually, as I'm pulling them out there, or you have these little things that we call pistons. There's 1 to 8 there on the swell, and as you can see, that changes the registration as I press each one. And you can make the organ sound louder to that. Or you could get reed sounds and clarinets. And there's a tuba there.
Alan George is one of the Talking Magazine's presenters. He's been blind from birth, but this doesn't prevent him from recording and also regularly presenting the magazine.
Hello, and from me, Alan George, it's welcome to another edition of the South Wales Talking Magazine. Well, as usual, we have a full and varied programme for you this month, but we start by talking to Sarah Allen from Insight Radio, who's with me in the studio. I know nothing about Insight Radio, so my first question to you is, what is it and where is it?
Insight Radio, it's the radio station of the RNIB, and they broadcast predominantly from Glasgow.
The engineer controls the microphones and recorded items, the whole programme recorded digitally. The Cardiff Castle report and all other material played in accordingly.
I'm with Helen Jones, who's got just handed me the guide, which is like a big remote control unit, really.
Well, as you can see, it's a magnificent new instrument which has been completely rebuilt from brand new.
Welcome to Postbag. And I've got a bumper bundle this month, which starts
Every
at
month,
3 o'clock.
over a dozen volunteers are involved in creating the 80 minutes of original material that goes to make up the Talking magazine. Other teams put together the weekly Cardiff Talking newspaper. It's a digest of Cardiff news and features taken from the South Wales Echo, courtesy of the publishers.
Hello and welcome from the news team, edition 1709. Your presenters this week are Malcolm Hutchins, Ian Prothero and myself, Edna McGrath.
Now first the main headlines. Plan to ease bus chaos, 300 jobs to go, and barrage scheme could hold back sea level.
I'll mention that in the heading then, and then we'll do the article. Jim will put in some...
The newspaper team concentrates on reading news stories, whilst the snippets team makes features its priority.
How about using dogs to move the seagulls on? We all know about the wonderful work of guide dogs for the blind, but it now seems that dogs are being used by the police in many kinds of detection work.
The hundreds of CD copies for the newspaper and magazine are done on special high-speed CD copying equipment. The master recordings are copied using computer technology, which enables many hundreds of CDs to be produced quickly and effectively. 40 years of producing talking publications has enabled the South Wales Talking Magazine Association to help many other groups, and today talking newspapers and magazines fill a real need across the country. Most of us take our sight for granted. Next time you're out and about, just remember how much more difficult life would be if you didn't have the valuable sense of sight.